Let's see if this is working. Looks like it is. Okay, welcome to the second live stream of the new channel. It's a single video, but it's like 40 minutes long. Jesus Christ, actual justice warrior. You kind of gotta make shorter videos, man. Ooh, McDonald's is making a drive-thru change. All right, well, what's the goddamn... Oh, God, it's AI. Oh, boy, if you thought your order was fucked up before, just wait till AI takes a hold of it. Fuck. All right, let's get into this. This is from the actual Justice Warrior. Pearl Davis is a goddamn idiot. Ana Kasparian is a smug cunt. And actual Justice Warrior, for whatever reason, decides to simp for Ana Kasparian. I don't know why.
Of disputed custody goes to women. That's not equal.
90%. That's a totally made up statistic. Where are you citing that from?
I don't know. By being alive, generally, Anna, about 9 times out of 10, women are granted custody over men. Just not for nothing. Actually, let's just take a look. Which parent gets custody of a child in the USA? Blah, blah, blah. Can I just get a quick thing? I hate it when I can't. Joint custody. I don't care about the types of fucking custody! Okay, fine. I'll re-answer the question. How often is the mom given primary Fuck! I can't fucking... Primary custody. I don't give a fuck about legal advice! Blah, blah, blah. Jesus fucking Christ. It shouldn't be this hard to look up shit. Okay, 80% of custodial parents were the moms. So, Pearl's close. And this took an annoying 45 seconds to look up, Anna. Now, what's pathetic is that Pearl didn't know this. By the way, Pearl is aging horribly. Maybe it's lighting?
How many women die every year during childbirth?
About 700.
Not many.
This country has the highest maternal mortality rate of any.
Yeah, and I'm going to explain why that is, Anna, if you don't bring it up later in the video, because I hate the way AJW cuts his video up. There's a reason, and it's not because our healthcare system sucks. In fact, ours is better than most. That's why rich Europeans that have the healthcare system you fucking want come to America to get treatment.
Developed country, so a lot of women do die as a result of pregnancy and childbirth, yes.
700. I'll tell if he doesn't bring it up later in the video, I'll tell you the number of babies born. Although, I'm sorry, but Anna chose a dress that's rather flattering to her. Pearl, what the fuck is this ensemble?
This is painful, man. Do you have any other questions for me?
Not right now.
All right.
It wasn't babies dying. It was women dying in childbirth. Pay attention, Iron Gullet. I know it's hard between bites of Hot Pockets. Also, you're on the side of abortion, so what the fuck do you care if a baby dies or not?
There's videos on the
You should
internet
see my
everywhere of
sister-in-law.
women getting their guns taken because they're not strong enough.
Are you just making things up?
Okay, Pearl, when you're in a debate, you have to have something on hand. This should have been in your notes for arguments that you're going to bring up. Again, Pearl did a terrible job here. Because she's either used to an echo chamber or just monologuing.
Pearl, what are you doing? Like, seriously. Next question.
I think I'm more of a feminist than you.
Sure. Go great. Congratulations.
Yeah, I don't even know where that's got you. But then again, I'm not the biggest fan of AJW's editing.
This is the longest 30 minutes of my life.
If a donation makes sense for you right now, I'm asking you to pitch in to the Democratic Party's Fight Fund.
I would rather let a fucking rabid Wolverine on crack lick my nutsack than donate to the Democratic Party Fight Fund. Especially since you're the one who said it.
Okay, I'm going to interject again if I can.
All right.
So Ana Kasparian of the Young Turks, literal best friend of this channel right here, recently did an event in Atlantic City where she debated in person Hannah Pearl Davis. It was actually the headline debate. It was at an event called Word War One, which I will call World War One multiple different times throughout the course of this video. And although that premise on its own sounds ridiculous, Anna debating Pearl Davis on the issue of feminism, a topic that seems like it should be dated back to like 2014.
I somewhat agree with that.
The only thing more ridiculous than this particular premise
We've already had this debate. The feminists lost.
was the fact that it actually happened, and Pearl Davis's performance was so embarrassing, so humiliating, so terrible that the much more prepared for this conversation Ana Kasparian actually suffered a little bit as a consequence of Pearl bringing literally nothing to the table. I mean, again, if you watch this debate, you will see that there are moments after moments of Pearl awkwardly pausing, repeatedly smiling awkwardly, looking at her piece of paper, not answering any of the questions brought up by Anna because she legitimately had nothing to bring to this conversation. She had nothing to bring to the table, and this is like a symptom of somebody who, if she ever does do a debate, it happens to be against like a 20-year-old OnlyFans model that doesn't know a lot of information, or somebody who does a show where she just asserts things time and time again and nobody actually challenges them. So when Pearl
And Ana Kasparian doesn't do that? Maybe not the 20-year-old OnlyFans model. I'll give you that one. But Anna's asserted a lot of shit that is complete horse shit. I don't know what your fixation with this bitch is, Sean. I don't know. Maybe you and her are friends, and maybe her husband and your wife are into the whole wife swapping thing, but I don't know why you relentlessly defend this cunt. And yeah, Anna's a smug, stupid cunt.
Actually had somebody in person challenge her, she folded or just kind of went into like a ball, like the equivalent of a fetal position on stage. And again, this was a humiliating experience for Pearl, and honestly for almost everybody watching this, because you have that.
Well, because I don't think Pearl's debated anybody. Again, maybe she did that. I know she was on the Whatever podcast. But again, you're dealing with 20-year-old OnlyFans model dipshits. Again, this is why I have zero respect for Andrew Wilson. Because he just asserts shit as true. If he was to take on somebody, again, like me, on the concept of God, I'd mop the floor with him. Because the Bible is a horrendous place to get your morality from.
Secondhand embarrassment for her.
And no, God didn't give us our morality. We gave it to each other. Because morality has changed over time. Again, while we still have capital punishment, we don't put it on pay-per-view. However, in, 1880... less than 100 years ago, or less than 200 years ago, if pay-per-view was a thing, that would have been on pay-per-view.
And I know that Anna herself was feeling that embarrassment. Now, we're going to get into this, but I do want to say thank you to the people running the Word War 1 Twitter account for actually offering me a ticket to come to this event. Thank you for Anna actually inviting me to this particular event. Unfortunately, I was booked on that particular day. There was no way I could have made it out to this event, even though I definitely wanted to. But I appreciate the offer. I appreciate trying to include me in some way, shape, or form in...
You mean something I've been booked for and expected to show up, signed a contract for? Or just something I decide to do out of the stupidity of my own brain, and I have to deal with a bunch of dipshit leftists while drinking? Yeah, a little bit different. Also, Andrew Wilson's not an idiot.
This whole process.
Most of you are.
Even as an audience member, because yeah, I could have experienced this horrible cringe in person and I probably would have died from it, but you know what, it was a death that would have been brought to me out of people wanting to include me, and I think that's really nice. But before we get into this, I
mean, for Christ's sakes, if you want to get even sexual morality, you know, Andrew uses the framing of that's why gays and lesbians are degenerate. Well, the Bible has a story in it where two daughters have a three-way with their dad. That is the story of Lot. It's in the Bible. Not to mention the fact that, and this was one of my contentions with Charlie Kirk, one of many actually, Charlie Kirk maintained that the Bible was written by God. Really? I thought God was perfect. Never made a mistake. Why are there like 13 rejected gospels? The damn thing was voted on at the Council of Nicaea, to be specific. Odd that the perfect word of God had to be voted on by men in the first place, but also has rejected gospels. And even in the Old Testament, there are rejected books.
Break this down, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money, okay? In a May 2024 appearance on Tim Pool's Culture War podcast, my opponent, Pearl Davis, declared that women aren't really doing much. We're not having kids. We're not really contributing to the economy when you look at output.
Well, actually, Pearl is half right here. Most of the jobs that women do could go away tomorrow and society would move along just fine. There are exceptions to that rule, but as a general rule, once a corporation starts to downsize and gets rid of useless departments, most of the people that are affected by those layoffs are women, because women generally do useless jobs. There are exceptions to the rule. Pearl's half right.
In fact, she uses this ridiculous assertion to argue that women should not have the right to vote.
They shouldn't, because they don't share equal responsibility in society. Men are required by law to sign up for the draft. Women are not. Therefore, women... And if I don't sign up for the draft, I lose my right to vote. Women should have to do the same thing. Seems fair. I thought you wanted equality.
While it's true the birth rate has declined, and we'll revisit that in a bit, women account for 47% of the American workforce.
Again, a somewhat disingenuous stat, because again, most of the jobs that women do can be eliminated and the business will not be affected. And society writ large will not be affected.
The Council of Economic Advisors found that women have contributed a substantial portion of the U.S. economic growth since 1970, which wouldn't have been made possible without the feminist movement. By 2017, women were responsible for nearly 40% of total gross domestic product, amounting to a whopping $7.6 trillion.
Yeah, and all of it is probably stupid bullshit. Just gonna say that.
So look, I knew this was over from the opening statement where Ana actually referenced something that Pearl Davis said on a Tim Pool show. And the reason for this is because already at that moment in time, I knew for a fact.
Look, I'm not going to go look at the Tim Pool episode and watch the whole son of a bitch with her on there. But again, Sean, you would agree that most of the jobs held by women are useless. They don't need to exist. Most of a good chunk of businesses owned by women. You know what? I won't even say a good chunk. I'm going to go down. I'm going to degrade it to a chunk of businesses owned by women are useless. You know that candle shop that's open for about 20 hours a week? Yeah, I guarantee you a woman is running that. It's just basically a front so she can go out to lunch with her girlfriend and write it off on her taxes.
That Ana had done significantly more research into Pearl than Pearl had done into Ana, and Pearl hadn't even spoken yet. But if I'm being perfectly honest, I knew this was over even before that, because both parties actually did a walkout at the beginning of this particular event, and you could just tell by the body language, by the layout of this, that it was going to be an uphill battle from Pearl, and some of that, because I'm the most gracious man in the United States of America, is not her fault. So first and foremost,
you're the most gracious man. You're literally simping for Ana. Why in God's name would you do that?
Ana
because again, Ana, even though she's gotten a little more right-wing and thus gotten a little bit hotter, supports unbelievably bad policy.
Kasparian is like a normal height woman. I believe she's like 5'3". Pearl Davis is closer to 6 feet tall, and you could.
Okay, I didn't see this. Now, I want to be clear. This might be the camera angle, but shouldn't a 6 foot tall woman tower over a 5'3" woman? They seem to be about comparable in height. Now, yes, in the past, Pearl has said she played basketball, so maybe she's a tall bitch. I don't know. I don't care. But just seeing them on stage, again, unless the camera's all fucked up, they seemed about comparable in height.
See that the podium was not adjusted for Pearl, so this is something that's not Pearl's fault, because you end up having a situation.
But here's my biggest gripe with Pearl. Pearl constantly says that women need to get married as soon as possible and be moms and sweet submissive wives to their husbands and blah blah blah. But why the fuck haven't you done it, bitch? I mean, I guarantee you could find a guy at least a little taller than you. Again, you're about a 5. But we can work with that. Or if you want to lower your standards, get a guy shorter than you that allows you, at least in the bedroom, to be dommy mommy or something. I don't fucking know.
Where she has to hold her microphone because it's too low on the thing, it doesn't adjust properly, and this is just a mistake that hopefully the folks over at World War I World Debate thing fix in the future. I told you I was gonna butcher saying that repeatedly throughout the course of this video. So in that regard, I do feel a little...
Yeah, I don't know why they called this World War I. That's weird, but whatever, fuck it.
Bit bad for Pearl, but in addition to that, I will also point out that Pearl did not represent herself well in a multitude of ways. First and foremost, the body language throughout the course of this debate told you everything you need to know.
Yeah, she looks uncomfortable. It looks like Pearl has not had a lot of experience debating people. Or at least debating people that know what the fuck they're doing. Because, again, I haven't seen Pearl in a lot of debates. I've seen her have a lot of people that agree with her, but that's about it.
If you actually scroll through this and just look at how they're standing, look at their faces throughout the whole course of this conversation, what you realize...
I don't know, maybe Pearl was hungover or something. I don't fucking know.
Is that the defeat is felt in Pearl's heart, in her soul, before they really even get in.
But again, I would have mopped the floor with Ana.
To it, while Ana is actually projecting confidence. Look at her posture, look at everything in the way that she's presenting herself versus Pearl. And also, I will point out, even though I'm not a fashionista, I'm not a doctor of clothing, that the way that both parties were dressed was also indicative of a lot, in my opinion, because Pearl looked like a disabled Catholic schoolgirl, and Ana Kasparian actually wore something that was flattering to her and seemed to fit the event that she was at.
All right, me and Sean agree on that.
Now, look, I don't want to focus too much on the superficial for that much longer, but the thing is, there's a reason why whenever you're watching a movie and you see a redhead in the movie, 9 times out of 10, that redhead is wearing green. It's because green contrasts really well with that color hair. It pops on video, and if you know you're going to appear on video, then maybe, you know, kind of present yourself in a way that is suitable to that particular forum. But again, this is not the only problem with Pearl's performance, because every aspect of her performance was absolutely terrible, although she got one good line in like the whole 45 minutes where she said that a woman should get a job just like a man, which ended up stirring up a reaction among the crowd.
That's equality. You don't want
Alimony
equality.
makes sense if
You
the
want-
woman was
you
a
want-
stay-at-home mother and doesn't have a source of income. How else would she take care of the kids following a divorce?
By getting a job just like the men.
Well, Pearl's right with that one.
Now again, told you I'm incredibly gracious. I try to give credit where credit is due. I try to be as fair as humanly possible. But now I think it's important for us to get into the annihilation of Pearl Davis at the hands of Ana Kasparian, because Pearl just had no substance behind her. And by the way, if you're somebody who watches Pearl Davis and you actually run down any of the statistics that she puts forward, you should not be surprised by this. She is the...
Well, actually, I checked some of them, and some of them do check out.
absolute queen of taking a headline statistic, basing her entire point on said headline statistic, and she did that repeatedly throughout the course of this. And I want to give you a couple of examples. You should watch the whole thing in its entirety. It will be linked in the description in order to prove my point. And one of the things that caught my attention immediately was this stat on male suicide that Pearl Davis ended up bringing up, which was that 1.6 million men have committed suicide since 1974.
There are millions of men that
Okay, that stat with gun violence tracks.
have died in this country from the political power that feminism pushes since
By the way, why does Pearl look so fucking bad in this? She doesn't even look like the same person in her video. Is it just the lighting or what? Invasion of the fucking body snatchers. But I have to take a quick piss break. I'll be right back, and I'll leave you with the fucking Crypt Keeper. Okay, and I before we go on with this, I want to be very clear about something. I don't really like either one of these chicks. I have my problems with Pearl Davis. I have my problems with Ana Kasparian. Again, I think Pearl spends way too much of her time just being in a goddamn echo chamber. So anyway, let's just get on with it.
70, an estimated 1.6 million men have committed suicide.
Time.
Again, you can go through the facts, the data, and the statistics and manipulate them any way that you want.
It's not
But
manipulation.
there are
Those are the
1.6
stats.
million. There are 1.6 million men in this country. Men are 9 times more likely to commit suicide after a divorce.
Now, I actually looked this stat up, and Pearl is 100% correct. And Sean's going to try something a little slimy to simp for Anna.
Compared to women, what's the number for women?
It's 1 in 9. It is literally 1 in 9. For every 9 men that commit suicide after divorce, 1 woman commits suicide. That's the number, bitch!
Lower.
Really? What is it?
It's 9 times lower! I just fucking said it!
Compared.
Okay, what's the total number of men that... Okay, this is what I would have fired back. What is the total number of men? Divide that by 9, and you get or the total number of everyone that commits suicide after a divorce. Divide it by 9, and you get the female number. Can you do that, cunt?
Comparative analysis is real difficult for you, isn't it?
Okay.
Go ahead, Pearl.
What's your next question?
Now, a lot of this debate was comparative analysis, so after Pearl ended up bringing up this statistic, Ana immediately asked her about the female comparison so that we can know the differential between male and female suicide. And by the way, Ana Kasparian, throughout the whole course of this debate, never disputed that men commit suicide more than women. I want to make that 100% clear.
No, we complete suicide more. But when it comes to divorce, the numbers are a little different. It's a way higher number for men.
Because people who are trying to analyze the debate and advocate for Pearl are pretending that she was being dismissive or hand-wavy to male suicide, but what Ana was actually trying to do...
She was. No, she was. I tried for 15 minutes to get numbers. I couldn't. The best I got was the 9-1 stat.
Was get a comparison so we could actually know what we were talking about. And the thing is, this is actually an example of Ana doing something good in the moment because Pearl did not have an answer for that question. Instead, she deflected to, oh.
No, I would have just said, Ana, take whatever the total number of suicides are, divide that by 9, and then you have your goddamn precious fucking female number. Jesus Christ. I swear to God, debating Pearl would probably be aggravating as hell, but goddamn, debating a leftist, I would rather set my fucking nuts in a vat of fucking acid. They are delusional.
Why are we talking about women when I...
And here's the thing. Sean isn't a leftist. Why he's defending Ana, I don't have a goddamn clue.
bring up men, as if this whole conversation wasn't comparative analysis between women and between men. But what's more important, in my opinion, is what this 1.6 million number actually is, because Pearl does a thing that is essentially like the underpants gnome's way of arguing, where she says something as part one of her argument, and then part two, you're just drawing a blank. There's nothing there. There's nothing to connect this to part three. And then part three is it's because of women.
There are millions of men that have died in this country from the political power that feminism pushes. Since 1970, an estimated 1.6 million men have committed suicide.
Time.
Okay, 1970 was roughly 56 years ago. 1.6 million seems a pretty low number given the time frame. And keep in mind, while 1.6 million is a big number, we are a country of 330 million people. Not to mention you're breaking that number over 56 years.
But the thing is, Pearl never actually makes that linear progression in order to actually prove that this 1.6 million men committing suicide since 1974 number is somehow the fault of women or the fault of feminism. And the reason she doesn't do this is because she doesn't...
You're simping that hard, you're actually going to defend feminism? Really, Sean? Feminists lost. It's over.
Even know what she's getting this number from. Now, let's say that this is a true, real, legitimate statistic, and maybe the reason why when I look it up it says it could even possibly be an overestimate is because Pearl tends to use outdated numbers, as she basically recycles the same talking points without updating them year after year after year. So we'll just concede that point.
All right, so according to Sean's source, 80% of deaths in the U.S. are men. So, again, after divorce, at least from the sources that I got, it's about 9. It pushes it up to 90%. So... I'm sorry, but this pretty much destroys Ana's point. The vast majority of suicides are men. Because getting divorced is like winning the lottery for women.
Point for the sake of argument that 1.6 million Americans have killed themselves since 1970. However, I do want to point out that the United States of America has a significantly large population compared to other nations. So what we
This is true. This is why Anna's opening statement that you started the video with is complete bullshit. Please play it. Please play it, AJW. Please play it. Please play it.
should actually
don't. It's going to be funnier.
Examine is per capita suicide rates. And by the way, I have filtered this particular chart to display the male numbers to rank them on their male suicide rate because we don't care about.
Okay, what the hell is this?
Women's over here on this channel. Now, when you look at this particular chart, I don't think that this is a display of the most feminist nations in the world at the top, and in fact, you have to get all the way down to 26 for the United States of America to appear there.
Well, I don't know what you're ranking this on.
And again, this is after many, many countries that probably have less rights for women's in said country. I mean,
because your rankings are all over the fucking map.
Are we blaming feminism for the male suicide rates in South Korea? Or maybe it has to do with the fact that they have an achievement culture, and if you don't...
I don't even get what you're going at. Yes, men typically succeed at suicide more than women because, again, men are better at getting shit done. Women they have a good cry, they draw a bath, they get some Chianti, climb into a bubble bath, and give themselves little cuts on the wrist. Guys just get a goddamn 357 and blow their fucking brains out with a hollow point. So, what is your point?
Don't pass a certain set of exams, you're looked upon as a failure, and that is a lot of pressure, especially for males, even though, again, their female rate is actually pretty high, but we're not talking about that because we don't care about that. Also,
well, you didn't sort it by female rates. You didn't even sort it by male to female rates. The only thing you sorted this by was male rates.
So we have Ukraine and Russia. Now, this is very likely due to the fact that we have a situation where both of these nations are...
Yeah, you only sorted it by male rates.
At war, people are being forced into service, there are stresses with the military service, and neither one of these countries is really considered to be this top-tier feminist nation. In fact, a lot of propagandists talk about how Russia's the real trad Christian society, and yet they have a significantly higher rate than the United States of America. And by the way, even if you're going to say that this is skewed because of the war, even prior to the war, Russia ranked above the United States of America. Again, look at the nations that are displayed right here and tell me if you think that feminism or women's equality or gender parity is the biggest determining factor for these results. Or maybe are there other factors that are more crucial and you would have to actually parse out whether or not feminism is the true cause or women getting more rights, or if there is a link. Pearl never presented that, but she just throws it out there as a big scary number without an actual point behind it, and then when questioned on it, she just draws a blank. But then things get significantly stupider.
Why is it that every time we bring up men, you have to bring up women?
Because we're doing a comparative analysis here. You can't just throw out statistics without comparing it to what the rates are among women.
What I'm pointing out is, I just pointed out.
Now, I will say one of Pearl's biggest drawbacks is she recites the same fucking speech all the goddamn time.
Out that by 2050, more men will have committed suicide than all of the world wars combined. And your first response...
There were 2 world wars, and even if we include just American men, you're nowhere near close, bitch. Actually, how many Now, maybe she didn't make her point very well. What was the goddamn casualty? Fucking son of a bitch. God. World War II. Jesus fucking goddamn cock-licking Christ. Korea, World War II. All right, we had in World War II alone a total casualty of 1 million men. So you're saying 1.7 million is going to be, again, maybe she's just talking about U.S., but Pearl, you have to be a little more specific. I hate this fucking list. Fucking worthless cunt. Okay, World War I was about 300,000, so if she's talking worldwide, this bitch is way off. I don't know what point she was trying to make. Because if it's World War I, World War II with just American soldiers, she was already beyond that.
Was, well, women commit suicide too.
So Pearl says by 2050, male suicide will outrank the deaths of all the world's wars, which, again, I thought at first she said all the world wars, even though there were only 2 of them. But regardless of how you want to interpret what Pearl meant by this, it is completely false, asinine, and ridiculous. So that 1.6 million number is a number that, again, spans 50 years. Obviously, 2050 is approximately 25 years.
Yeah, the total number of deaths in World War II was about 60 to 75 million.
From now.
That was just World War II.
People who were killed in World War II, if you guys are unaware, was actually 80 million people.
No, 60 to 75.
So in order to make up for the difference of just World War II, just to be even if I grandfather in the last 50 years of male suicide statistics to just match World War II, you would have to have 78.4 million people take their own lives and not.
Now, I want to be very clear. I do not know if she's just talking about America or if she's talking about the entire world. Because the world, I kind of think might be a little bit bullshit. But just in America, you've already surpassed it.
People, men, take their own lives in the next 25 years, which is an exponential increase, a great increase, an insane increase that you would not expect in the next 25 years of male suicide. This stat doesn't make sense however you interpret what Pearl was trying to say. If she was talking about all the world's wars, which again are tons of wars. If she was talking about the world's wars in the 20th century, again, tons of wars. If she was talking about both world wars, again, it doesn't make sense. If she was talking about either world war, it doesn't make sense because, again, it is just not based in any logic.
Oh, and if she's talking about world's wars, you mean, yeah, even if it's the 20th century, yeah, no.
Even with the suicide rate going up among men, it would not go up like 70-fold or 140-fold in order to match the deaths of even just World War II. Now, I know some of you might be typing in the comments that maybe Pearl meant all the casualties in America's wars total, like every single war America engaged in the history of the country, but the thing is, that 1.6 million number is already higher than the 1.3 million estimated Americans to have died in combat since the history of the country. So again, she doesn't know what she's talking about.
And commentators can, they can try to minimize it. They can.
All right, I got to do this.
Talk from their ivory tower.
There's on average 40,000 gun deaths a year. About 30,000 of that is considered from suicide. So I have to go. So let me go 33,000 times 55 would bring us to about 1.8. I don't get where she's getting this stat from. Yeah, most gun deaths are suicides.
And pretend it's not happening, but there's a genocide of millions of men that's going on in this country.
No, it's not a genocide.
A genocide?
I was going to say
1.6 million men commit suicide. Have committed suicide since 1970.
She also calls.
That's not a genocide. A genocide is some dumb bitch like Anna locking everyone with a right-wing opinion away and then putting them in gas chambers. If you kill yourself, that's your own damn fault.
It a genocide at one point in time. And just to be clear, while male suicide is a serious problem, while men take their own lives more than women worldwide, in reality,
yeah, because again, men don't fuck around because we're far better at getting shit done than women. Even killing ourselves.
no way, shape, or form is this a genocide, as a genocide is the intentional destruction of a people in whole or in part, and it has to be done by an external party. It has to be a homicide. Quite literally, suicide cannot be a genocide. That is not a thing. So I don't know what the hell.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it might come from the fact that we've been telling men for the last 20 years that anything that makes them masculine is toxic masculinity.
Hell, Pearl is.
They don't need to get better mental health, coping, whatever the fuck. They just need to be tough, toughen the fuck up, and move on. Get up! One more round! Get up, you son of a bitch! 'Cause Mickey loves you.
Talking about here, she's just grandstanding, and again, when challenged on this, she had nothing to rebut Anna with. And this was a pattern that we saw time and time again throughout this conversation. There's a point where Pearl says in one Midwestern town, they ended up discovering that 40% of the sexual assault claims were false, and then Anna asks, what Midwestern town are you referring to? What year are you referring to? You know, basic questions.
Okay, I'll give you that. Pearl should have had the thing ready. And considering I know this is going to go, I am going to take another pee break. But I'll just let the video play for you.
About this assertion that Pearl threw out there, and Pearl ended up acting like Anna was disrespecting flyover country or something.
Can you cite some actual studies that look at these statistics and back up what you say in regard to the outcomes of marriage and divorce in America?
41% of 109 rape cases reported to police in a Midwestern city were admitted to be false by complainants.
In one Midwestern city? And which Midwestern city was that?
You know, you can go from your ivory tower and
I'm
tell
not in an
people what
ivory
to
tower.
think
I'm
and
on
how to
this debate
feel.
stage interrogating your assertions, and you've only provided an anecdote.
Because Pearl didn't actually know the town stats that she was referencing or the relevant year, even though she had this written down in her notes, which, by the way, she was awkwardly reading throughout the course of this conversation.
Women spend money all the time. You spend money on hair dye, you spend money on Botox, you spend money.
You should think about it. I sure am.
You spend money all of the time.
Yep.
So you wanted to be men, here it is. You're equal. Pay for daycare.
Equality means that when you have a child or children, you're both
Oh, also, Anna told Pearl that she should look
I'm sorry, Sean, isn't your wife a stay-at-home mom?
into Botox and plastic surgery, which was kind of hilarious and mean. Now, Pearl also has a bunch
No, this is where Anna turns into the smug cunt. And trust me, throughout this debate, Anna is a completely smug cunt.
of
I'd have her crying, but
completely ridiculous non-points that she brings up that may sound good again when you're doing your own show and there's nobody to push back on them, but when you bring them up as actual argument points in a debate, you realize that they're completely absurd and ridiculous.
Why do we have phrases like it's cheaper to keep her?
Pearl,
Answer the question.
divorce is expensive. And by the way, on purpose.
yeah, it's expensive usually for the man.
To discourage people from getting divorced in the first place.
Actually, it's not that cheap. It's not that expensive to get fucking divorced. It really isn't.
Why do we have phrases like happy wife, happy life?
Because it's true. Same with happy husband, happy life. I don't want to come home to an angry husband.
Yeah, there's a reason they don't have that in stone.
But that's not a phrase.
Do you have any
is it?
other like catchphrase or slogan you want to throw at me?
So Pearl's like, why do we have phrases like it's cheaper to keep her or happy wife, happy life? And Anna ends up responding with, because it's true, and again, because divorce is expensive, and in addition to that, she says, yeah, it also goes the other way. Happy husband, happy life. She doesn't want to go home to an angry husband. And then Pearl says, why is that not a phrase? As if this is a great counter argument or rebuttal to that. But the reason why that's not a phrase is because it doesn't rhyme. Is Pearl
No, it's because nobody gives a rat's ass about the man's feelings in a marriage. And they haven't for a long time, Sean. If women cared about a man's feeling, or if society was focused on the man's feeling in a marriage, then every single fucking woman would be on her knees naked with a rum and coke in one hand and a sandwich in the other, ready to blow him when he got home.
argument that in reality the English language for not rhyming husband with a synonym for life is somehow this egregious crime against men? No, that's absurd. We tend to have idioms that either rhyme or sound like they have a little bit of rhythm to it, and in reality, happy husband, happy life is not one of those things that...
And as for women not voting, you know, just I just go with the legal argument of women don't have to sign up for selective service, men do, so therefore they shouldn't vote. Here's another one. How about the social contract? A woman and her child are in trouble. As a man, I am expected to put myself at risk to help and assist them. If I run away, what am I thought of? Oh, I'm thought as a coward. Yeah, until that shit's done away with, women don't need to vote either.
That has that ring to it. I guess you could do happy spouse, happy house, or something stupid like that, but do we really want to shift all of our phrases to be super gender neutral? That seems lame.
And not to mention this other thing that society does that would need to be done away with. Society does not treat women as adults. They don't. Women are not held accountable for their actions. That's why women get significantly less sentences than men for the exact same crime. Just look at the crime of fucking a student. If it's a male teacher, he's nailed to the wall. If it's a female teacher, she gets a slap on the wrist. Now, this is changing, but again, you get my point. So no, unless we're going to hold everybody equally across the board, then no, women don't need to vote. Also, it would make my side a lot easier to win elections.
Progressive and oddly feminist of Pearl Davis, but maybe that's actually what she's going for.
1/3 of paternity tests are negative by the American Association of Blood Banks.
Now, next up, we have Pearl bringing up the paternity fraud issue, and she's like, 1 in 3 paternity tests come back negative. And I'm assuming what that means is that 1 in 3 times somebody does a paternity test, it turns out that the alleged father is not, in fact, the father. But the thing is, this is a sample that has to do more with selection bias than anything else, because in reality...
Oh, so you're just desperate to defend your little girl. Okay, here's another thought. Here's something that Pearl advocates for that I support. Mandatory paternity tests. When the baby is born, the father's DNA is taken, and boom. It's just a mandatory thing. Nobody's feelings get hurt. A lot of guys will not get a paternity test because they do not want to hurt their wife's feelings, or they don't want to get divorced. And there's been more than a few women, a lot of women, that I've seen that would divorce their husbands on the spot if he got one. Oh, what? You don't trust me? No, bitch, I don't. If it's any consolation, I don't trust anyone else either. Men are still expected to take their wives' good word for it. That's why, again, one of the policies that Pearl supports and I support as well is just mandatory paternity tests at birth. Nobody has to get offended because that's the law.
If you're suspicious enough to demand a paternity test, obviously there are increased chances that you will not be deemed the father of that child, because
is that why 1/3 of all all cases where the dad finds out he's not the dad? Actually, no, I take that back. It's 2/3. 2/3 is the mom is on her deathbed and she confesses. The other part of the 2/3 equation is the child is sick and needs, like, let's say, a bone marrow transplant, and the dad says, well, test me, I'm probably a match because I'm her dad. And that's when the mom has to come clean that he might not be. That's 2/3. 2/3 of when they find out about paternity. So I'm sorry, Sean, but this doesn't hold water with me.
Usually, that suspicion is rooted in something. And I say usually, even though according to Pearl's statistic, when these suspicions do in fact exist, 2/3 of the time, they're
What happens when they don't exist and then they find out when, again, their child is fighting for their life? Or the mom gave a deathbed confession? Again, Sean, another thing we give women that we don't give men, we give women trust. People like you think women can't lie. They do. A lot. That's why you got to keep your bitch on a tight leash.
completely unwarranted suspicions. The father turns out to be the father of that particular child. So in 1/3 of the cases that are most likely to be indicative of some kind of sketchy behavior on the women's part, that's where you actually have the guy not being the father. And again, this is with the skewing of the sample in that there's enough suspicion in the first place in order to demand a paternity test.
You're talking about voluntary paternity tests. You're not talking about the vast majority, dickhead.
Men are 9 times more likely to commit suicide after a divorce.
Compared to women, what's the number for women?
It's take whatever the number is, divide it by 9, and you have the number of women.
It's lower.
Really? What is it?
Now, this is where I would have actually smashed Anna. I said, dear smug cunt, take whatever the number is, divide it by 9, and that's what you have. Good job, bitch.
Comparative analysis is real difficult for you, isn't it?
Okay.
Now, again, Pearl is terrible at this. I will say this. Anna's spent a lot more time debating people that don't agree with her.
Go ahead, Pearl.
What's your next question?
Now, another example of Pearl putting out a half-baked statistic is that right there. So what she actually meant to say is that men are 9 times more likely to commit suicide after divorce than women, although she leaves that second.
No, we're 9 times more likely to achieve it. Or 8, actually, we're about 8 or 7 times more likely to achieve it. But it goes up after divorce.
In part out, and the reason she
God, is he going to get to this? Because I debunked this earlier.
Ever married, again, according to the numbers. And even though Pearl had this put right in front of her face in that Trent Horn debate, guess what? She's out here rehashing the same thing in this Ana Kasparian debate because Pearl never actually consumes new information. She never adjusts her stats. And another perfect example of something that Pearl
She never adjusts her stats and her viewpoint for new information. Ana Kasparian thinks fucking socialism can work. I mean, how many times do we have to have socialism fail? And you yourself have covered it, you four-eyed dipshit. I don't know why you're just thirsting over Ana Kasparian's pussy juice. But, you know, she supports a system you goddamn know, has failed every fucking time it's been tried, and you've railed against it.
never adjusts is the fact that she's been saying she's interviewed over 1,000 men for like 5 years on YouTube, and she brings it up yet again in this debate.
My answer to this question not only comes from covering current events and researching the facts, data, and statistics, but also in my professional experience interviewing over 1,000 people in America and Western nations.
You would think that number would go up, and in addition to that, you would think at some point in time, Pearl would maybe realize that the kind of men that she is seeking out to do interviews with are obviously going to come with a specific perspective. I mean, imagine...
Gee, it's not like Anna's side ever does that. Fucking retard. It's not like they ever do that.
If I put out a call and I...
Oh my God. What is your deal with Ana? I know you're married. I know Anna's married. By the way, I didn't have to dig for this. They both publicly admitted it. Are you guys just signing up for wifeswappy.com? And this is why you're simping for her?
started doing a show where I was interviewing women who were bitter against men, and all I heard over and over again repeatedly were women's stories about how bad men were. And then I said, hey, look, on my show where I exclusively interview women who hate men, they tell me horror stories about men.
Yeah, except the divorce, the rate of divorced men that got destroyed by their ex-wives is way higher than the other way around, you fucking dickhead. And by the way, Sean, I still like you. I still like your channel. But in this instance, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with you. And by the way, the divorce horrors for men, that's not a new tale. That's a tale as old as goddamn time.
Therefore, that is somehow data and not selection bias. You would find that absurd and ridiculous. It's like when Caleb Hammer interviews people that are in debt, and he's like, I interviewed 1,000 Americans on my show Financial Audit, and what I found out is that all these dumbasses...
No, he also interviewed people like, God, what the fuck is that whore's name? Amaranth or whatever that fucking Twitch Thoughts name is. He was perfectly nice to her, and yeah, Caleb Hammer yells at these people, but then he breaks down their spending, and you find they're complete idiots with their money.
End up going to Disney World when they're drowning in debt and they never pay their student loans. No, obviously the people who are on Financial Audit are on there for a reason. It's because they have bad spending habits.
Yeah, but they don't want to listen to the lesson. And they got themselves into this shit on their own.
Poor work ethic, they tend to defraud the welfare system, and all those commonalities that, again, come from the selection bias.
But again, again, Caleb has had successfully people on his show, but that makes for a very boring show. People tune in to watch Caleb Hammer scream at people. And I'm sorry, but some of these people need to be yelled at. Just like your dumb dipshit leftist, I don't know what the fuck she is to you. Fuck it, I'll just say girlfriend needs to be yelled at.
Rather than the overall trend in society. Pearl, you got to do a little bit more than just say for the last 5 years you've interviewed over 1,000 men, because, you know, eventually somebody's going to call you out on it.
Except Caleb Hammer actually does give them good advice. They don't like it, though.
Fortunately, it wasn't in this debate. But there were even worse moments than that for Pearl. There was a point where Pearl was saying, what do you get out of marriage? And Anna ended up saying a bunch of things that you get out of marriage, which, by the way, a little bit...
Okay, is this from the male perspective or the female perspective?
Of a sidebar thing. One of the things that I do like...
Because what did Pearl say? Because this is important. What does a man get out of marriage versus what does a woman get out of marriage? I'm going to have to watch this whole son of a bitch. Fuck me. What does a man get out of marriage? Oh, nothing.
About Ana Kasparian is that she talks up her husband so much in public. She really shows genuine affection and appreciation for him. She did so on this debate stage. Actually, it's kind of strange that a left-wing person is making a solid case for marriage so vociferously on the internet.
Okay, are you going to show it?
While somebody who is allegedly on the right is denigrating it in every possible way. And she ends up giving this rebuttal to Pearl on what she appreciates about being married, the importance of marriage. And Pearl does not compute this. She did not expect Anna to have a good retort to that. So then Pearl was like, pause, awkward.
You advise men to avoid marriage.
Sell me on marriage. Marriage. What do men get out of marriage?
Okay, what do men get out of marriage?
Big cable comes with big bills. That's not nice.
That's sad. It's sad that people think that. It really
Well, no. What do men get out of marriage? Why the fuck should a man get married?
is. You get a partner, you get a team.
Whoopee. It doesn't have to be female. Doesn't have to be somebody I share my life with. Again, a partner can be a partner is closer to a business relationship, not a romantic relationship.
Teammate, you get to
Teammate, same exact thing.
build a life together, and it's
Okay. And then when the woman gets bored and decides to destroy that,
beautiful.
you act like, okay, this is where I would have nailed her. 80% of the divorces are initiated by women. I would have stopped her right fucking there. I don't need a woman to have a teammate or a partner. I need a woman to be a wife. And again, we're building this up for the rest of my life. Okay, then why the fuck are 80% of the divorces initiated by women?
I feel like misery loves company in this situation.
This is why I would have blown her out of the water. I'd have said, bitch. I mean, unless this was like a muted mic time thing, I mean, I don't know. But then I would have just been writing notes. I don't get this part.
And how would you know what you get out of marriage if you haven't experienced marriage in the first place? I'm not saying that as a personal attack. I really hope that Pearl meets the love of her life and gets married. It's not about that. But you trash it without really understanding.
Okay, I would not have backed down that far. Well, one, I'd have screamed at Anna already long before she got to this point. But
What the benefits are.
And it's embarrassing to see. And again, I will point out that Anna was probably in her B form, not her A+ form. But the thing is, I think Anna was partially thrown off by how bad Pearl was during the course of this conversation, because for lengthy periods of said conversation, Pearl never gave Anna anything. I mean, there was a point in the conversation where Pearl brought up Amber Heard, and she was like, why is Amber Heard not in jail? She did false allegations, or false allegations as the super mayor would call them.
False allegations and not facts.
And therefore, she should be locked up.
all right, HJW, as much as I love that, it's getting a little old.
For those false allegations.
You guys want to believe women at the expense of men. Why isn't Amber Heard in jail? Because of the Me Too movement. You guys push believing all rape victims, and now we have rape.
Amber Heard had to pay a massive settlement.
Yeah, but why isn't she in jail?
You want her in jail?
Yes.
Well,
She ruined his
the penalties
life.
for defamation are what the court's decision is, right? You want people to go to prison for defamation?
Yeah, I would like women to go to prison for falsely accusing a man of rape for the exact same amount of time that he would face for rape.
He had to go to 2 different countries to clear his name. Why isn't she in jail? He lost millions of dollars.
To be clear, you think the penalty for defamation is prison time?
I think the penalty for a false accusation is that the woman should get the same time that he would have gotten if he was found guilty.
Men don't go to prison for defamation.
Except she wasn't accusing him of defamation, you dumb cunt.
But the thing is, I don't know if Amber Heard actually made false criminal allegations against Johnny Depp, which of
Oh, yes, she did. She accused him of domestic abuse. That's criminal, you four-eyed fuck. Anyway, I'm just going to zip this to the beginning because I've about had it with him. Let me just destroy his little princess here.
Equal.
90%, that's a totally made up statistic. Where are you citing that from?
Psychology.com institutes that men are 9 times more likely to kill themselves versus women after a divorce.
How many women die every year during childbirth?
Not many.
This country has the highest maternal mortality rate of any developed country.
You're right. You're right, Anna, we do. I only checked one, but I'll just, you know what? I'll grant you. We're higher. I'll grant you that, bitch. Last year, or 2024, there were 3.6 million children born in the United States of America. And 700 women in our country died due to complications, one way or another, from childbirth. So 3.6 million babies, 700 women bit the bucket. Let's go to another first world country, Germany. That's usually the largest populous country in Europe. 83 million souls live there. I would like to point out that the United States has over 4 times their population. So it stands to reason that our death rate would be a little higher. But what about per capita? Now, they calculated it the same rate. 4 out of 100,000 women die during childbirth in Germany. And oh my God, that's a lot lower than the United States. Just one problem, though. While we had about 4 million births, or 3.6 million births, about 1% of our population, Germany fell well below the 1% rate with less than 700,000 births. Again, less than 1% of their total population. So maybe, Anna, the reason that fewer women die in childbirth is that fewer women are having children. Maybe that's why. And again, I just took one random country. Not to mention, of that 700,000, how many of them are ethnically German? But anyway, that's where this one ends. Good night, everybody.